Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode on my channel. Today I've got a little bit of an interesting change for you. I'm spinning up a new virtual machine here because I want to do some potentially destructive testing at some point in this episode, and that destructive testing is going to be with regards to Feathers and Flame a little bit. It's a fairly significant project, Feathers and Flame. It's got a fair bit of code, a fair bit of configurations. When you're using software at that kind of level where you're making heavy use of a lot of features, you tend to find something a little bit off with the software, some little bugs or whatnot. And indeed, it was no different in this situation. I found a couple little things off with Noctalia and Neri, as amazing as they are. And I have a couple ideas for how to fix some of those problems, which is kind of the root of this video. In fact, one of those ideas I've actually already implemented as part of Feathers and Flame, because it's to do with something that I have power over as a user, and not just something in the code base. But I want to push the fixed defaults back to Noctalia, and as part of that, I need to figure out how to do that. So I've been developing my own code as hobby projects on and off for about 9 years, but my efforts so far have been fairly targeted to just my interests, what I'm doing with myself, and I've been trying to make as much as I can with the knowledge that I currently have. And at this point, I've started thinking, well, that's not a great way to learn, is it? It's good to be able to do as much as possible with your skill set, but at a certain point, you kind of need to acquire new skills, right? That's part of this video as well. I want to widen my skill set a little bit, and I've been doing that with this Feathers and Flame project and also just poking at some other programming languages. But a big part of what I want to do is contributing to open source software, which I think is kind of humanity's one functioning utopia as much as it does function. So to do that, I need to learn my way around the system, and I thought it would be fun to share my experience trying to learn my way around the system with you guys, so that if somebody watching this is in the same situation, then maybe this can function as a little push to get you involved in the ecosystem. Because really, the ecosystem is better the more people are invested in working on it. So yes, what actually then is the issue that I want to fix here? It's quite a simple issue. I think it's probably best to start out with something simple. In reality, I wouldn't need to set up such a elaborate dev environment, but this is part of the process, and if I want to implement other changes down the line, then I'll have to have an actual functioning test environment, and that's also something I want to be able to set up. So I want to see how people have a whole bunch of different dev environments set up and be able to follow along with that myself. Now I should probably contemplate this error, shouldn't I? Well, I think I've figured out what the error problem is. So it failed while setting MIME types, which is lovely. We're getting distracted a little bit, but if we go into Feathers and Flame directory, just so I can show you MIME types file, we have set default web browser, Tor browser. I only selected the Mulvad browser in the installer menu. My bad. I should probably add a clause for that in the code. In the meantime, let's rerun the installer. Anyway, yes, I still haven't actually mentioned what the issue is. It's a coloring issue with the Qt file. A lot of applications in Linux use the Qt framework. I mean, I think it's cross-platform, but anyway, it can be colored with a theme file, and Noctalia provides a template for that theme file. I can actually show you over here, missing some colors. So this color here is just hard-coded white, and this color here is hard-coded whatever that color is. I don't see on GitHub because GitHub doesn't color hashtags. Snip. Apparently, they're claimed to be light and mid colors 3 and 6 here in the file. But I can tell you that I have found better colors for my file than the hard-coded ones. In comparison, we've got this thing, which is going to change depending on the color scheme, so it's not hard-coded. And then we've also got this one, which again changes with the color scheme. So we've got surface container and surface variant in place of white and whatever this color is. I guess it's kind of a light gray here. Yeah, so that's the fix I want to submit a pull request for. Very simple, but I thought the process would be interesting. Oh, setting MIME types. That's the thing that errored last time. Seems like it's figuring it out this time. Well, that's finishing up. The first couple of steps I've taken to submit this pull request is look over the actual guide to contributing in Noctalia. So I think that's a good place to start if you're also interested in contributing to open source. I'm trying to contribute something that resembles code. loosely. So over in the development guidelines, a nice summary of the project structure, and I'm supposed to use left hook to format QML files. Now, I'm not actually going to modify any QML files, but I figure I might as well install it just for kicks and giggles. That's from this GitHub repository. It seems like I can use Go. It goes into some detail about code organization and quality. That doesn't really apply to my contribution right now because it's so small. So I won't change the formatting of any file by making this change. So then from there, do I actually have the latest version of Noctalia? Have they fixed this issue? So I checked back in the actual repository, the source code, and indeed the colors are still untemplated. So that means it hasn't been fixed upstream. I'll also look in the pull request section. Yeah, so none of the open pull requests mention color. I think this is an untouched fix. So now that we've looked at the contribution guidelines and checked that the issue is not already resolved by some pending pull request, we can prepare a fork of the repository to get ready to make our fix and submit a pull request. So I'm just taking a look at the branches here. It seems like we have main and then we have some feature branch. If we look at the pull requests, yeah, the pull requests seem to target the main branch, which is kind of what I expect from looking at the two branches available, trying to decide there which of the two active branches I should be forking in order to prepare for the pull request. And it seems to be main. So now we're going to create a new fork, and it will be created under my profile, obviously. And I'll name this something descriptive, say noctalia shell qt template. And I don't need to customize this anymore. So let's create that fork. Before we get too far into that, I can also show you what I mean with my issue and my fix. If we take a look down in the config directory for Noctalia, we have user templates. Oh yeah, and NeoVim is going to take a while to install its plugins. Give me a moment. You know, apparently NVim Tree Sitter, the plugin that's installing a whole bunch of things right now, has been archived in a little bit of drama. Maybe it'll be forked or something, or reopened, I'm not sure. Now we're in. If we go down to Qt5CT and Qt6CT, these specify that Noctalia should use my custom template for the Qt5 and 6 configs. So if we quickly just comment that out and then change background, yes, Cherry Lake. This one has a different set of colors, so we'll be able to see. Yeah, sorry, the performance of me recording OBS and running a virtual machine simultaneously, it leaves something to be desired, you know. But yeah, so we've got our theme change. We launch KeyPass. Then you see it's now still got the same color palette from before, and that's because the Qt file over here, this is the generated result of the template file. The Qt file here has not been regenerated, so it's still got the old colors. And if we were to change those colors and relaunch KeyPass, then KeyPass would change colors. That's how the template files work. So now let's close KeyPass and let's turn on Noctalia's own template. Over in the color scheme template section, we can turn on Qt. Okay, good. We've got Qt turned on now. And you can see that it writes the file that I just showed you a moment ago. And it seems like it hasn't been updated yet because we haven't changed background. So let's choose a different background. This purple one, because purple is different from both of the previous backgrounds we've chosen. The color file should have been regenerated now. Oh, right, and it switches to purple node. Color scheme should have been regenerated again now. And if we open it, yeah, that looks purple to me. I've got the night light on right now, so the colors are maybe not entirely clear, but I'm pretty sure it updated. But importantly, this bunch of Fs right here, those ones have not updated. And if we go down here and we launch KeyPass, yeah, okay. So now if we lock that file and go back to the main screen, we have this very bright, very ugly white box around our password menu. So that's using the system file. Now if we close that, open up NeoVim and uncomment that stuff, and we can turn off Qt. I think it just regenerated the colors. But let's switch background just to be sure. So we can switch to this nice one here. And now we relaunch KeyPass. And you can see that the password menu fits in. So that's the fix that I'm trying to implement here. Just switching some colors in the generated file. So then, now that we've got a fork of the repository that we can change and make our fix in, we go to the desktop, clone that. While that's downloading, I'll check back on how to install left hook. I decided the easiest way to get this installed properly would be to use Go based on Left Hook's suggestions, because Go I can install directly from Pacman. I mean, I'm sure I can install the other things directly from Pacman, but Go I've used slightly before. Okay, great. Presumably this will work, I hope. Yeah, it seems plausible. It's funny, I can see up in the top left-hand corner all these cores. These are the virtual cores. If I go into my actual system, I can see all of the cores here, and holy smokes. I'm guessing the recording is suffering a little as a result of that. Great, that seems to have installed. And the next step is left hook install. I probably have to be CD'd into the actual Git repository, but we have that, so can CD in there and then left hook install. Unknown command. Ah. Huh. Maybe I'll reboot. See if that helps. Rebooting tends to be the answer to everything. Great. Rebooted. Now let's try running left hook. No! That's not very nice. How to run a Go program. Well, this is a bit awkward. The left hook install doesn't seem to work. I've tried it in Fish and Bash and checked online, and it seems to just, all of the sources say just run left hook install. So that's great. I do see this left hook binary in Go here, so it seems kind of a little silly that Go can't find it, since it's obviously right there. I shall try to run it manually. Go bin left hook install. Yay, that seems to have worked. So something's a little off with their setup, but I think I've got that figured out now. So then I'm a little bit new to QML and Quick Shell. I want to be able to test my fix once I've implemented the fix. The actual implementation of the fix here is going to be a tiny portion of the work that actually goes into this, which is kind of funny. Not entirely efficient, but you know, that's the way it is, I guess. Anyway, so I want to be able to test, right? Make sure my fix doesn't break anything, because that's not great. And I know Noctalia stores its files in etc. xdg quick shell noctalia shell. I'm not actually sure if you have to compile anything in my ignorance. So I'm just going to run a quick diff against this folder to see if anything has changed between the GitHub project versus this folder. I'll cd into my noctalia shell thing and then run a diff recursively here with noctalia shell. Wow, that seems to have found something. Let's scroll up there a little bit and see what's what. So what I'm seeing here is there's definitely some kind of build process going on, right? We have a different hash in the flake lock that's for Nix packaging. We have, you know, some human readable changes. So this is differences between the current version that I have installed from the Arch package repository, or the Cache package repository, I guess. The difference between that current version and the bleeding edge version on GitHub, but the files line up, right? They correspond. We have in both locations an applications provider.qml, all of these other files, and none of them seem to have been compiled that I've found so far. Yeah, no, there's no this or that file is present in this or that directory and not the other. So all of the files correspond. It's just that they're slightly different versions. Yeah, I mean, like version 4.7.7 in the GitHub repository versus version 4.7.6 in my actual etc. folder. Yeah, point being, I should be able to hot swap, well, maybe not hot, but worm swap essentially these folders into my etc. folder to see that, you know, stuff works. I mean, obviously I could just go to etc. here, yeah, the qtc.conf file here. So I could change it in place, but that would be stupid. I want to change it in the GitHub repository and then verify that that change doesn't break anything by copying it into place. So let's actually make the change now. After all of that, yes, this is the one. So if we open that up, yeah, we're in Noctalia shell Qt templates. Lovely. Actually, I don't even need to edit this, do I? To make my change, I don't even need an editor because I've already made my change. I already know that the user template that I've got works, so I'm just gonna delete that real quick. Peruse over to the one that I'm actually using. Enter here so that I make sure I'm pasting it in the right place. There we go. qt.conf. And that should be the change. And oh yeah, whoops. Right, so I set up some Git aliases in my actual system, but I haven't incorporated that into Feathers and Flame yet. I'll type this all out manually like a pleb. Cool, that's the only file we've changed, and the change is this. Now it's staged as modified. What's something descriptive but cool? Add Qt colors. Allegedly, remember they are light and mid. There we go. There's the commit. What? Oh yes, right. I have to configure this with my email address and whatever. I'll do that in just a second. Okay, I think I've got that configured. Git commit m, add Qt colors. Wow. We've got a left hook pre-commit. That seems to have worked. Formatted 418 files. That's a little scary considering I didn't change any of them. I wouldn't actually want to be committing changes if I haven't changed them, given that I haven't typed anything. One file changed, 3 insertions, 3 deletions. Yeah, that's good. That's what I wanted to see. So, change has been committed. So let's, I've actually forgotten how to do this. Yes, Noctalia restart. That's what I want to do. Actually, I just want to kill Noctalia, to be honest. Brutally murder it. P-kill, yeah, just give me that line, please. There we go. So, Noctalia is now dead, and I'm just going to try and warm swap. Remember, it's not hot swapping, it's warm swapping. I would never hot swap Noctalia. This maybe is not the intended way of testing. I honestly don't know, because it doesn't say on the website what the intended way of testing is. Let me just quickly read this. As far as I can tell, the only place it mentions testing is just, test. I will interpret that as I will. Let me just quickly remove our xdg quick shell noctalia star. Oh yeah, they probably need to sudo that, right? That's a problem I can fix. Okay, now that's, yeah, nice and empty. It's just waiting for us to copy our stuff in. Strictly speaking, we don't actually need to copy some of this over there, but I'll just copy all of it because the extra stuff isn't gonna hurt, right? It would never hurt. Hey, apparently I need to R this as well. Okay, cool. Now we have filled this with other good stuff. It's always a good idea to check that your change has been incorporated properly. Yeah. So now we've copied our changes into place, and now we can use the cool Feathers and Flame keybind for restarting Noctalia, which first kills Noctalia again and then tries to start it. So hopefully it'll start. That would be nice. Looking good. Now we've got Noctalia open again, and it seems to be functional. Lovely. I do like it when things are functional. We can go back over to Noctalia user templates. GCC that. What we should see here for the moment is if we switch background, KeyPass should fail to change background. So I'm just going to run that as test number 1. Indeed, no change to the color file. So we're not using the old Feathers and Flame template. That's what we verified there. So now if we go to the system templates and enable Qt, it should write out the files for us, and it should use the new template. So let's go to wallpaper selector and switch to, say, Goose Pond, because the geese are cute. We get some purples, good stuff. Launch KeyPass.xc. Boom! There we go. So now we have a functional system level Noctalia color template. That test has been passed, I would say. Allegedly, I am supposed to test this also on Hyperland. I don't have Hyperland installed, so that could be problematic. So I'm just trying to think of what is the best way of testing on Hyperland. I do want to conform to the letter of the law here, and if I'm going to be adding a different fix later that's actually got some content, I will be wanting to test it on Hyperland. So I could either try and install it myself, which could potentially be a pain, especially since I don't have any configs for Hyperland other than the omarchme configs, which are really just the omarchy configs, which are nice, but I'm not exactly sure how to set that up since I didn't do it. I was thinking about this for a minute, and option 1 for testing on Hyperland is to just install fresh from CachyOS stick, select both Hyperland and Neri, then I install Feathers and Flame in the Neri environment. Yeah, that would work. Then I would be able to switch to Hyperland and whatever. But that would involve waiting, and I don't like waiting. I've Pacman SS'd the Hyperland in the CachyOS repositories. I believe I should be able to install Hyperland. Hyperland Qt support looks interesting. CachyOS Hyperland settings might be nice. And that's probably all I care about. I certainly don't need the hyper idle and hyper sunset and whatever. Yeah, so let's let that rip. See if I get a functional desktop environment from that. Hey, what do you want? Let's go with ncurses. I've heard good things about ncurses. Yikes. So apparently Hyperland settings and Neri Noctalia settings are in conflict. That makes things a little more difficult. let's cancel that. I guess I'll install from a fresh VM. Okay. I've changed my mind yet again. I'm just going to remove CacheOS Hyperland settings from the mix and just install the Hyperland stuff itself. I'm pretty sure I can figure out the configs because I just realized all it amounts to doing, I'm pretty sure, is dumping the me configs into the Hyperland.config folder. So yes, that should be manageable. Cloned the Omarchy repo. I'm looking at the configs. So I just want to put these configs into the correct places so that Hyperland functions, so that I can test Noctalia. And it seems like I need to put things into local share Omarchy, config Omarchy, and config hyper. So I'm going to do that. So just pasted config into config. Yeah, I remember that's what happens in the Omarchy install scripts. And then I need to put the default configs into the right place for this to reference them. And I don't think I have to care too much about state Omarchy toggles hyper because there's probably nothing in there. Although if that's a problem, I can remove it. So config's in the right place, that's great. Next, I'll need to reboot or start Hyperland from a TTY. I don't actually know the command to start it properly, so I'll probably just restart. Right, I just remembered that Omarchy will probably try to automatically launch a bunch of stuff I don't have installed, which I will try to avoid here. This is the entry point in the configs, and I will immediately disobey their comment. I will edit those manually. Media, probably don't care. Monitors, that seems like something that could cause problems. And auto start. So let's see if that works. Now, before I can switch into Hyperland, I do need to disable auto login for the Neri session. So let's go over here, and I guess I'll just delete this file. Yeah, I mean, I can automatically generate it. Oh yeah, I don't have permission. Bloop, gone. Okay, now I think I can restart and hopefully choose the session. Cool, it seems like at least one thing has worked. We are in the SDDM login manager. No shade to the SDDM team, but I think this is probably the single ugliest login manager I've ever seen in my life. And it seems like we can switch to Hyperland, so that's good. In their defense, the main purpose of SDDM, as I've seen it used, is ensuring that you never have to see this screen. So there's that. Let's log in and see what happens. Found no match. Do I get a terminal? No terminal. Do I get a terminal like this? No. Like this? No. Like that? No. None of these buttons bring up a terminal. What am I supposed to do with my life? I guess I will turn it off externally. Just went into the file and lines 13 and 23 are current theme and this one that I thought wouldn't be a problem. So I've just commented those out. And we shall see if this was sufficient. All I really need is like a terminal that I can launch Noctalia from and KeyPass, I guess. Okay, so no errors. Do we get a terminal? Still no terminal. What is this world? That's problematic. I have figured out how to get myself a terminal. I sent a goofy key combination here. I think it was Control Alt F4. Now we're in a TTY. And I want to investigate config hyper bindings.conf, which seems to not be doing its job. Right, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So I was forgetting that the bindings themselves would also be using UWSM, which is the Universal Wayland Session Manager, which is not what CacheOS uses to manage the Wayland session universally. But it is what Omarchy uses. I'm just going to try and crudely hack this file into the right shape by setting UWSM app to Alacrity here. So let's give that a go and see what we've got now. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, now I need to figure out how to get back to the previous screen where Hyperland is running. Let's try this again. Nope. What if I exit? Okay, that brings me back to the login. What if I... Aha! So I think I'm now in Hyperland. Yeah, and we've got terminals. And I've even got a binding for switching between terminals. Okay, good. Cool. We should even be able to run Nautilus, right? Yeah, kind of. I mean, it looks ugly, but what can you do? Good, we are in. Now I want to run Noctalia. And I have installed, remember, Hyperland Qt, whatever the package was called that should make it compatible with Noctalia. So here's hoping. But I need to remember how to run Noctalia properly. Oh, maybe I can even NeoVim. Nope, that binding doesn't work. Maybe that was a little much to hope for, but I should be able to launch NeoVim from here. Noctalia restart. Should be this command. If I run that here, I forgot how crazy small the the windows get in Hyperland. So far, I do not see a Noctalia. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Amazing. Can you tell by how excited I am that that worked? Just how clueless I am about what I'm doing? Well then, okay, we've got Noctalia running. What do? None of my keybinds are going to work, but I can now use the Noctalia launcher to switch wallpapers. And just out of curiosity, nope, fail. Can I launch the launcher from here? It's looking sus. But I can launch KeyPass. Okay, good. I can switch workspace at least and open up another terminal here. So I can run KeyPass from the terminal. Ah, the hideous light of the Daystar. What is that? I think I know what's going on here. In my Neri configs, I've got an environment variable set for which Qt platform to use. And I'm sure Hyperland isn't setting that. It's a completely different bunch of configs, right? So let me go over here. These are the variables that are set. And yeah, we need Qt QPA platform theme, QS icon theme, and Qt QPA platform. I mean, probably all these other things too, right? Yeah, and if we go over to the Omarchi file here, Qt QPA platform is Wayland. Get rid of that. Qt style override, Quantum. I don't have that set, so it's gone. Session type Wayland, that's correct. Data home probably doesn't need to be set. Should be Qt6CT. Yeah. Let's give that a try. Who knows whether that will update live or not. I think Hyperland does that, right? It's how it's supposed to work in Omarchi at least. So let's run KeyPass. Nah, fail. Yeah, see, it's still getting Phantom. And oh, maybe open a new terminal. Test, for example, QPA platform theme. That's unset. What was being set? What was being set to Quantum? I have to check the recording. Qt style override. So let's echo that and see what we get. Yeah, it's still Quantum in this terminal. But if we open up another terminal, then it's also still Quantum. Rip. So I might need to restart Hyperland or something. But how about if I bash and then echo that? Still Quantum. Okay, well, I've unset it now in bash at least. I don't know if that's a fish command or not, so whatever. KeyPass XC. Also, I should check, right? Do we actually have the other things that I tried setting? Let's say, for example, I think the important one here is Qt QPA platform theme. Aha, good. So we do have that. Let's try this again. Dang it! Oh, it's not very nice. At least it's giving me one less complaint. Well, okay. I realize this is maybe not quite in the spirit of testing on both Hyperland and Neri, but given the fact that we are in Noctalia and stuff, we already know that the file produces the right colors if KeyPass actually uses it. Getting that to happen in Hyperland is obviously going to require a little bit of work, but we can at least just check that the file updates correctly. That's testing. None of these problems are Noctalia related. None of them are color scheme related. It's purely just a why work in terms of KeyPass. So let's chuck this over and yeah, file updates. That's great. Let's switch again. Open. Yeah, it's blues now. So that's good. Yes, indeed the template works on both Neri and Hyperland. That was way more work than I needed to do, but I just wanted to be very thorough. Now that we've got that figured out, I am going to close out of Hyperland because I really can't stand it. At least, oh right, no keybind for opening the session menu, that's great. That's obviously because the configs aren't properly done, but still, Neri is so much better. Changed my mind. No, I mean, for me, with my tiny laptop screen, I have no use for windows smaller than a quarter of the screen, ever. And Hyperland just produces those out the wazoo, so it's kind of not my thing. But I declare this a success so far. We still have a little bit to do, but I'm going to do that in Neri just now. Log into that. Cool, we are back in Civilization. And if we cd into desktop Noctalia, then we have now verified that this change does not break Noctalia. And in fact, it works. So I want to push this now back to my repository, git push, and now I need my GitHub token. So let me figure that out. because it's not in this VM. So for some reason, I'm having a lot of trouble with local send. I want to send my GitHub file from the host system here to the guest system, the VM. I can only send the wrong way, and that's a problem. So here, maybe I'll just send all of Noctalia folder. Yes, all of this to the host. Wants to send you 649 files. Accept. Yeah, that's a less efficient way of doing things. But it works at least. Very silly. Okay, that took a minute, but it is done. And we can shut down the VM now. Now over here we have Noctalia shell template, git status it. Whoa. Okay, I've just quickly reset that. Those weird modifications weren't staged, but you know, still. Now I should be able to push, because I don't think my commit has actually been affected. And that seems to have succeeded. Reload that and see what actually got pushed. Yes, add Qt colors, light and mid. So this is the changes. That is indeed exactly the changes that I wanted, so I think that's succeeded. Now I think it's time to write a pull request. One commit ahead. Yeah, okay, so if we go over here to the compare screen, so the branches match up as they should from my main to their main. It contains exactly this one commit, no funny business left over from the weird local sending, and the only suggested changes are the color changes. So that's exactly what I wanted. I'll have to figure out what's going on with local send or get the file onto the VM some other way for future changes. So I will click create pull request now and start writing some stuff. And it looks like they have a template here. So I'll read through what their template says. So I was writing the PR and I remembered that Dolphin, the KDE file manager, and now if I look at it, it does not have weird theming errors. So I believe Dolphin is also fixed by that. But I have just about finished the PR. So let's close out of that and let me bring that over onto your monitor. Pull request, fix for the Qt color templates at these locations. The motivation, it's missing entries for certain colors, which leads to theming problems. For example, key pass, probably also a dolphin. And we add 2 more colors to the template, fixing the theming as below. So it's a bug fix, not the other ones. I tested on Neri and Hyperland. And I haven't seen any weird colors in other applications over the weeks I've been using my user template. So that's my testing. We have a before and after picture over here. Before and after picture, I have used their formatter, changed no format in the template. Code has been reviewed by myself. Yes, I self-reviewed and it's all good. And I did not notice any new warnings or errors. You know, I'm trying to be thorough to work the process into my mind so it's easy to be thorough later. Yeah, just practicing with a little thing. So I will create that pull request. Exciting stuff. All right, I will let that sit for a minute and hopefully this is Monday. I guess now it's Tuesday. I've been working on this for a little while, but this nominally speaking was Monday. I will let this sit for a minute, plan to upload it on Sunday. Hopefully this isn't the end of the video and I'll have some feedback or maybe it'll be merged or something. And I am going to bed. Well, folks, it continues to be Tuesday and I have woken up and I even managed to get to my fieldwork on time. It was a little bit difficult, but I at least managed to go to sleep on the bus. So that's something. Anyway, I have good news. We have fixed template, add template entries has been merged into Noctalia main. That's pretty cool. After all of that work, we have actually gotten that change merged into the main branch. Yeah, anybody using Noctalia should get that fix sometime relatively soon, probably in the next release. So I think the only thing left for us to do here is the civilized thing and react with a little heart. Yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed that little adventure. I had a pretty good time, actually. I thought that was quite fun. This stuff is definitely a bit out of my comfort zone, but I do want to do more of it in the future. And as I said, I have another idea for something I want to PR into Noctalia if it works out. But I think before then I may need to streamline my testing setup a little bit because the Hyperlad stuff is pretty janky. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care and bye-bye.